Near midnight, on August 15, 1953, 2 truckloads of soldiers moved through Tehran toward 109 Coup Street, the residence of Prime Minister Mohammad Mosaddegh. Their commander was Colonel Nematollah Nasiri of the Imperial Guard. He carried royal decrees dismissing Mosaddegh and appointing General Fazlollah Zahedi in his place. The surviving operational records describe Nasiri's rank, mission, and escort, but not his precise clothing. Any elaborate uniform detail would therefore be invention. Nasiri told a servant that he had a personal message for the Prime Minister, but Mossadegh's army chief had received warning hours earlier. Infantry and tanks already protected the residence. Instead of arresting Mosaddegh, Nasiri walked into a stronger force and was arrested himself. Across Tehran, other coup units stalled. Zahedi waited for an escort that never arrived, then returned to hiding in northern Tehran. By morning, the Shah had fled his Caspian palace with Queen Soraya, flying first to Baghdad. Washington believed the operation had failed. Yet Kermit Roosevelt, the CIA officer directing the operation, remained in Tehran.
2 years earlier, the struggle began more than 500 miles south of Tehran, at Abadan, an island refinery city beside the Shatt al-Arab waterway. Its towers, storage tanks, pipelines, and flames formed the heart of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British-controlled giant built on Iranian soil. Oil flowed outward in tankers. Iranian anger flowed inward. Many Iranians believed Britain received wealth and influence, while Iran remained poor, dependent, and treated as a junior partner in its own country. Into this conflict stepped Mohammad Mosaddegh, a 70-year-old lawyer, aristocrat, and leader of the National Front. Inside the Majlis, Iran's parliament in Baharistan Square, he argued that sovereignty meant little if foreigners controlled the resource beneath Iranian ground. On March 20th, 1951, nationalization became law. The oil industry, from exploration to production, was declared the property of Iran. When Mosaddegh became prime minister the following month, Parliament ordered the law implemented immediately. Britain refused to surrender quietly. British technicians left Abadan, legal pressure intensified, and buyers were warned away from Iranian oil. The refinery slowed, exports collapsed, and the government lost the revenue needed to pay salaries and stabilize the economy. Washington presented itself as a mediator. American officials tried to negotiate compensation and keep Iran aligned with the West. But beneath the language of compromise, another question was forming. Would Britain accept an independent Iran or remove the man demanding one? By the summer of 1952, the silver-haired Mosaddegh, photographed in dark suits and patterned ties, remained Iran's national hero. But his political room was growing emptier. The oil blockade drained revenue. Salaries, imports, and patience came under pressure. At the Royal Palace on July 17th, Mosaddegh demanded control of the War Ministry, placing the armed forces under the elected government rather than the Shah. The Shah refused. Mosaddegh resigned. Ahmed Kavam replaced him. But Tehran erupted. Crowds filled the streets, clashes turned deadly, and within days, Kavam was gone. Mosaddegh returned stronger. The Majlis granted him emergency lawmaking powers for 6 months, allowing him to act without waiting for parliamentary debate. Yet victory carried a cost. Allies, including Ayatollah Abul Ghassem Kashani and Mozaffar Bakai, moved into opposition. Inside Tehran's Grand Bazaar, merchants divided between Mosaddegh and his rivals. In Parliament at Baharistan Square, his support narrowed.
The communist Tudeh party was not under his control, but its disciplined marches terrified royalists, clerics, officers, and officials in Washington. Then Mosaddegh challenged the Majlis itself. In August 1953, Iranians voted in a referendum on dissolving parliament. The ballot was not secret, and supporters and opponents used separate polling places. The result overwhelmingly favored dissolution, but the method damaged Mossadegh's democratic image. He remained popular, defiant, and legally in office, but around him, Iran's institutions were cracking. Foreign plotters would not create those fractures. They would drive a knife into them, and powerful men inside Iran were preparing to help them do it. By October 1952, Britain's embassy in Tehran was closing, and its intelligence officers were being forced out of Iran. But in Washington, British officials carried a proposal behind closed doors: remove Mohammad Mosaddegh. The Truman administration hesitated. American diplomats still sought an oil settlement, and a coup risked chaos. Then, Dwight Eisenhower entered the White House in January 1953. Around him stood officials who viewed Iran through the lens of the Cold War. Economic collapse, they feared, could open the door to the communist Tudeh party and eventually the Soviet Union. Oil remained beneath the crisis. Communism became the argument that made intervention easier to approve. British intelligence had called its plan Operation Boot. The CIA's version received a colder code name, TPAJAX. Behind closed doors in Washington and London, the target was defined: Mosaddegh and his government. General Fazlollah Zahedi, a former army officer and enemy of Mosaddegh, was selected to replace him. But the plan required a royal signature. The Shah would issue decrees dismissing Mosaddegh and appointing Zahedi. His name would give covert action the appearance of constitutional authority. The Shah was hesitant, fearful that failure could cost him his throne or his life. CIA planners therefore prepared to pressure him, organize sympathetic officers, unite Mossadegh's opponents, and shape opinion through propaganda. On July 11, 1953, President Eisenhower, Secretary of State John Foster Dulles, and CIA Director Allen Dulles approved the campaign. America had entered the crisis as a mediator. Now the mediator had chosen the knife. By July 1953, Operation Ajax had moved from Washington's files into Tehran's streets. Kermit Roosevelt, the CIA officer directing the mission, worked through the American station and a network of Iranian intermediaries. His task was not simply to remove Mosaddegh. It was to make that removal look Iranian. Newspapers became weapons. CIA planners identified Tehran's major papers, including Etalat and Kayhan, while agents prepared posters, pamphlets, and anti-Mossaddegh stories. The message changed with the audience. To royalists, Mosaddegh threatened the Shah. To conservative clerics, he appeared dangerously tolerant of communism. To merchants, his government promised deeper instability. Money moved quietly through political contacts. Some funds were intended for influential figures capable of organizing demonstrations, although surviving records do not prove that every alleged recipient knowingly served a foreign operation. The planners also studied Tehran's human geography. The bazaar, the university, government ministries, newspaper offices, army barracks, and the wide avenues where crowds could gather and momentum could change sides. But propaganda alone could not seize a capital. The operation needed officers who would obey the Shah's decrees, units willing to move against Mosaddegh, and commanders prepared to ignore orders from the government they had sworn to defend. It also needed the Shah. Roosevelt's team pressed the hesitant monarch to sign two firmans, one dismissing Mosaddegh, the other appointing General Zahedi. The decrees would give a secret coup the costume of constitutional procedure. CIA planners were blunt. Success depended on two forces: the Tehran garrison and the largest crowds in the streets. They did not invent Iran's divisions. Royalists, clerics, merchants, officers, nationalists, and communists already struggled for power. Operation Ajax supplied coordination, money, propaganda, and timing. Each tool was designed to push uncertainty toward one decisive outcome. The storm would appear spontaneous, but behind it stood men arranging the thunder. On the night of August 15th, Colonel Nematollah Nasseri reached Mossadegh's guarded residence with the Shah's decrees. He expected to dismiss the Prime Minister and place General Zahedi in power before Tehran could react. But Mossadegh's army chief had been warned 7 hours earlier. Infantry and tanks surrounded the house. Nasseri was arrested, and the firman he carried fell into government hands. Elsewhere, the coup unraveled in silence. General Batmanjelic refused to enter army headquarters after seeing loyal troops and tanks waiting outside. Zahedi waited for an escort that never arrived, then slipped back into hiding in Shimran, north of Tehran. Before sunrise, police posts were reinforced, and Mossadegh's residence was protected for several blocks. The city remained quiet. The operation was broken. At his palace beside the Caspian Sea, the Shah understood what failure meant. He boarded a beechcraft with Queen Soraya, a pilot, and one palace official, landing in Baghdad on August 16th before continuing toward Rome. An American diplomat found him worn by 3 sleepless nights, bewildered and asking what he should do next. In Tehran, Mossadegh appeared victorious. Royal statues were pulled down, Zahedi vanished, and Washington began considering how to repair relations with the man it had tried to remove. Yet Roosevelt refused to bury the operation. Photographs of the Shah's decrees reached journalists. Zahedi's supporters argued that Mossadegh had defied a lawful royal command. Then, on August 18th, CIA headquarters sent the message Roosevelt did not want to hear. The operation had failed, and actions traceable to the United States should stop. Roosevelt stayed. By the next morning, Tehran's streets would become the battlefield. On August 19th, 1953, Tehran awakened without knowing which government would control the city by nightfall. Around 9 in the morning, crowds emerged from the Grand Bazaar. Some carried portraits of the Shah. Others attacked the Iran Party headquarters and the pro-Mossadegh newspaper, Bakhtar-e-Emrouz. Police and soldiers watched. Crucially, many did not fire. Trucks packed with civilians and troops entered the avenues. 6 tanks moved through Tehran, displaying the Shah's picture as government offices and communications buildings began changing hands. The crowd grew because power seemed to be moving with it. By late morning, armed men and demonstrators were heading toward Mossadegh's residence at 109 Kak Street. His guards resisted, and the fiercest bloodshed of the day erupted outside its walls. Elsewhere, another column advanced toward Radio Tehran. The station continued broadcasting ordinary programming, even cotton prices, as the capital tilted toward rebellion. Around 2 o'clock, music replaced the announcements. Then the signal died. At approximately 3:30, the transmitter returned with a new voice. Radio Tehran was now proclaiming General Zahedi as Prime Minister. Near the American embassy, Zahedi was still hiding in a basement. Kermit Roosevelt found him eating lunch in underwear and khaki trousers, with his military uniform waiting nearby. Soon, army officers arrived in a tank. They lifted Zahedi onto their shoulders, placed him inside the vehicle, and drove him toward the radio station. At Mossadegh's residence, the defense collapsed. The building was entered and ransacked. Mosaddegh escaped amid the heavy attack before surrendering the next day. Operation Ajax had not controlled every person or every movement. Iranian royalists, soldiers, opportunists, and genuine opponents of Mosaddegh shaped the outcome. But foreign money, propaganda, planning, and contacts had pushed a divided capital toward its breaking point. By sunset, Tehran had changed sides, and Iran had changed course.
Days after the coup, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi returned to Tehran from exile. Crowds greeted his aircraft, while General Zahedi led a government born from soldiers, street power, and covert intervention. Mosaddegh faced a closed military court. Convicted of treason, he received 3 years in prison, then lived under guard at Ahmadabad until his death. The political order tightened around the throne. Martial law, censorship, arrests, and repression helped the Shah become Iran's central power, backed by a growing relationship with Washington. Then came the oil settlement. In 1954, Iran formally retained ownership of its oil resources, but an international consortium received operational control and access to production. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company held 40%. 5 American companies together held another 40%. Shell and a French company divided the remainder. The wells reopened. Revenues returned. So did Western influence. Operation Ajax looked inexpensive from Washington. No American invasion, no declared war, and a friendly monarch restored. But history kept the unpaid bill. The coup did not single-handedly cause the 1979 revolution, yet its memory convinced many Iranians that American friendship could conceal another plan to control their government. When revolutionaries seized the United States Embassy in Tehran, fear of another 1953-style coup shaped their actions. The operation lasted days. The wound lasted generations. Subscribe and like this video for more hidden stories behind events that still shape our world.